Hi, welcome to Beyond Politics. I'm Catherine Clarke. Saskatchewan Conservative MP Rob Clarke grew up in British Columbia and knew from an early age that a career in policing was for him. He became a member of the RCMP at the age of 22 and served for almost 2 decades before deciding to take a run for federal office. Rob Clarke joins me now for a chat about life beyond politics. Rob Clarke, welcome to Beyond Politics. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me here today.
So I'm going to start off with the fact that you were an RCMP officer for years and years and years. Is that right?
Well, if you,
like almost 2 decades.
Well, if you say almost years and years and years, and call it 18 years, a long time. In the policing world, when I first started, I was only 22 years of age when I first started. So it was quite green around the years, and putting 18 years around in the RCMP and going up to the rank of sergeant in charge of my own detachment, it's a very short time in a policing career. I do miss it a lot, but getting into politics it's a whole new world as well.
Yeah. Did you know from a young age, you know how a lot of kids say, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a police officer. Did you know that you wanted to be a police officer, or was it a decision that you came to?
No, it's ironic. I always wanted to be like your typical small town little boy. I wanted to be a fireman. But when I have a brother-in-law who's in the Edmonton City Police, but now retired, when I saw him in a police uniform, I knew I wanted to be a police officer. And
what was it about the uniform that struck you as a child?
It was the integrity of the individual. I think he played the biggest role, just seeing him in life and how he treated people, and actually going and watching him one day interacting with individuals, clients, or seeing him talking to individuals and seeing him actually trying to help and really do care.
Right.
And that's what I thought with what policing was all about, is going out there and trying to serve and protect everyone at the best of your ability.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to do, and I applied when I was, I believe, almost 20 years of age for the RCMP, and it was a short process till I got in 1990.
And then what happens at that point? You go to Regina?
Well, no, I did French language training had aptitude and lived in Montreal for 6 months. And it was a full immersion. And then once I finished the French language training, I went to Regina. Then I had many transfers along my career, all in Saskatchewan.
Right. Did you get to pick where you worked? Were you how does it work? Are you able to suggest, I want to work only on reserves, I want to work only in one province?
Well, no. When I joined up or saddled up, I was in British Columbia, in Quesnel, British Columbia, and going to school, post-secondary education. And when you go through Regina, you go through a recruitment process, and then they do a staffing interview, and they give you 3 options of what provinces you want to go. At that time, I asked for British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, and fortunate enough, I was lucky enough to get Saskatchewan as my 3rd choice. And looking back now, it was probably the best choice I could ever do.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I have 2 wonderful children, a 13-year-old son that I'm very proud of, and a 10-year-old daughter, just equally as proud, and they're my love of my life.
Right. But they came about because you moved to Saskatchewan and met their mother, I'm assuming?
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just phenomenal just now.
Right.
The only fortunate part being in politics, you don't get to see your family as much.
Yeah, sure.
And I do realize you don't see your kids, and I miss that part, seeing my kids grow up.
Yeah.
My son is actively involved in hockey, and my daughter's in cheerleading and ball. So on weekends, I try to be an intern dad type deal, and watch them grow up and get quick snapshots of their life, and I try to get as many snapshots just on my BlackBerry. I think I currently have about almost 2,000 photos on my BlackBerry.
You can sit in the house and go through them during votes.
Well, sometimes I will do that.
Yeah. Okay, now let's take a step back and talk about your own family growing up. Were you born and raised in
I was born in Kitimat. I was adopted.
Okay.
both my parents, we started out in Gibson's, British Columbia.
Okay.
And I remember having my parents had foster children.
Right.
And one of the boys was Alphonse George. And if you've ever watched The Beachcombers, his uncle was Pat John, or Jesse, the native on the tugboat.
Right.
But he always seemed to get thrown into the water at the time. But just seeing the cast and being able to interact as a kid, growing up and just seeing them, and having a close-knit family.
Yes.
There were 6 kids in the family, and my dad was just a journeyman electrician.
Did your parents adopt all of their children, or were they?
No. There's 2 adopted, 1 foster, and then 3 other stepbrothers and sisters.
Wow, that's a really big family, frankly. How old were you when you were adopted?
I was
You were
adopted
an
at birth, yeah.
Yeah.
So my parents are my parents.
And did they tell you that you were adopted?
Right from the very beginning.
Oh, interesting.
They made sure I was aware of my culture. I'm a First Nations background, or
Yeah.
Aboriginal, or Indian. It's whatever the flavor of the month is, or whatever is politically correct.
Yeah.
However, they treated me as an independent. They made sure I was aware of my culture. And as growing up, I was very aware of it and moving around. The province of British Columbia, my dad was in the sawmill industry, and going to Slocan, I remember going to a 3-room school.
Really?
So it's a perspective of growing up and meeting people in Slocan.
Yeah.
I just went back there 2 years ago and had to show my kids where I grew up.
What did they think?
They couldn't believe how small the school was.
Yeah, I know. That's the great thing. Kids are always so honest, aren't they? They tell you. So did they just think, wow, Dad, I mean, where did you all fit? Or?
Well, we went back to our old house where I grew up, and went to the old company's house that we used to live in growing up at that time was Tri-Pac. And then actually getting to swim in a lake that's glacier fed. It's 40 miles long, I believe. And they couldn't figure out how the water would be so cold. And I just look up in the mountains, and you can see the glaciers feeding the lake.
What was your mom like?
Oh, both my parents were fantastic. Both came from a military background. My father was in the Air Force as an Air Force mechanic, and my mother was an MP, a military police.
Huh.
So
were a lot of women military police at that stage, or would she have been one of these?
She was one of the few.
Good for her.
She was very strong-willed, and when Mom spoke, she ruled the roost.
Well, I hope so. With 6 children, she'd need to.
And just seeing the military background, and I think that's probably what made me choose to go into a paramilitary organization such as the RCMP.
Right.
Is the regime, and just how she was able to make sure law and order was in the home.
Yeah. Did your parents ever talk about why they became involved in fostering? I mean, what was the impetus for them for being involved in that? Because that requires a tremendous amount of dedication and a real generosity of spirit. It's
just the nature of my parents were taking children in, and especially foster children, trying to give them a better life, a different exposure than what the current circumstances surrounding when they had to leave that home. And I saw that in the RCMP so many times too, where the environment for a child is not really well suited for a proper upbringing. And I think my parents wanted to make a difference overall. That's why they became foster parents.
Yeah.
And like currently now, like I look at one of my foster brothers I keep in touch all the time, Alf, who lives in Quesnel, British Columbia. I remember he was a foster child from about 6 years of age to 12, and then left. But he came back when he was 16, and my dad was able to get him a job back in the sawmill in Slocan, British Columbia, and he hasn't left since.
Wow,
type thing, where he now has his own family. And
that's a great success story, eh?
It's just make a difference for one person.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch with other of your foster brothers or sisters?
No, I didn't know. I was so young.
Yes.
I didn't know too many of them.
Yeah. So, what kind of a kid were you?
Oh, I love sports. I still love sports. And
Sure.
Name a sport, I've probably done it. From competitive swimming to hockey to baseball, basketball, volleyball, you name it. Football, rugby. I think keeping of individuals or keeping kids active in sports and this was very, I think, a key point to seeing myself and my siblings all grow up, is if you keep a kid active, it keeps them out of trouble.
Right.
You're going from sport to sport to sport, and you're falling asleep. But
yeah.
when the time comes at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever, it's ready to go to bed. But if you kept the child active, and also too, it creates a great social interaction, gives the person the ability to interact with other individuals on a daily basis. I think that's a key component of sports, and should be mentioned as excelling further for other parents who want to keep their kids active.
Yeah, that element of really interacting with other people seems to be a theme for you. So through the sports, through the RCMP, now in politics, you're choosing things where you're always in contact with other people. Are you a social person by nature then?
Oh, that's quite comical, or funny when you mention that. I remember one of my report cards.
So that you're an introvert?
No, it wasn't an introvert. What it was is that the teacher had mentioned in chemistry class that I should be spending more time on my studies instead of getting up and wandering around and being interactive.
Okay.
And ironically, here I am now,
yeah,
as a federal politician.
Right, where it's a valued...
Where it's a valued commodity.
Yeah.
Being able to interact with individuals, especially strangers, especially when you're getting to know the people.
Sure. Yeah.
And you got to know the individuals who you're dealing with, and also just when you're dealing with individuals as a police officer, you meet that individual right away, and you have to form some type of relationship with that client, either as a victim or as an offender, in order to do your daily job.
Did you ever go into situations once you made the decision to become a police officer and you joined the RCMP, where, I mean, it must have changed how you interact with people, because initially you're interacting with people to be friendly and to be outgoing and to probably make other people feel more comfortable. But once you're a police officer, you're interacting with people for a whole bunch of different reasons, and you also have to watch your own back. Did it affect how you deal with people? When
you're going through training, you're trained to look out for yourself, make first for officer protection, officer safety, and also for your partner and your colleagues.
Right.
So any type of situation you're going into, you're cognizant of the environment, but you're also cognizant of trying to, one, maintain and protect someone else's life too, and you understand that. So for myself, have I been in situations? Yeah, I've been run off the road. I've been in head-on car collisions. I've been stabbed at. I've been thrown a story and a half down. I've been in rip-roaring scraps right on the ground, life or death situations. I've had guns pointed at me. Does it give you a perspective? Yeah, it does. It gives you a perspective on a daily life now, life every day. You get out of bed and you say, God, it's good to be alive, or well, this is just maybe something here in the House of Commons, something awkward or something bad happens to you, and you look, where is that on a 1 to 10 scale?
Right.
I'm still here, I'm still alive. It's only a 5 or a 4.
Right. A lot of the police officers that we have talked to for this show, people who have gone on to elected office or hold high roles, seem to have this sense that there are, in fact, good people, that there are good guys and there are bad guys. And I've always wondered how that doesn't affect your view of the world, though.
Well, to look at it, when you're in your uniform and you're going to a complaint or going to a situation such as domestic violence or a murder or assaults, you're dealing with 1% of the population, that one bad percent, and it is going to give you a jaded perception of the world, and you got to remember that. And that's why a lot of the RCMP officers or police officers go out, they coach the minor hockey, they're coaching ball, they're volunteering, they're interacting with the kids to keep them out of trouble so they don't become that 1%. Give them a positive role model.
Right.
And show them. Like, I remember being on the ice at hockey, minor hockey, in uniform coaching. And you don't even think about it. The kids don't
Sure.
even, the kids don't even think about
They probably do on a certain level, though, because a police officer is still a police officer to a child, you know? Like, it's, might be so-and-so's dad, but it's...
Oh, it's always someone's dad, or
Yeah.
because you're coaching. Usually you're coaching your own kid. 'Cause
Yes.
There's not enough coaches out there to actively get involved in minor sports.
But I think if you're making that good first impression with the child too, I know that I have 2 kids, but I have a young boy, and whenever we see police officers, he always gets really close to me, but then he gets a big smile on his face. And I think if you can create a situation where kids' first exposure to a police officer or a firefighter or a paramedic is, but especially the police, is a positive one, that that can also, in fact, impact them on a far greater level than just, you know, how they, you know, whether they like the police or not. It can affect how they turn out as people too.
Well, exactly. It's about interacting with the children. And one of the things I always did, and I know other police officers have always were griping or criticizing me for it, is like in Northern Reserves, when I'd come out of the north, my first stop would be Costco. And I'd be loading up on double bubble gum.
Oh, really?
And on a patrol, I'd just have a bin of gum
Okay.
right beside me. And when I see kids, here you go.
Oh, man.
I don't
That's
know
a smart idea.
I don't know about the dentist bills, but...
Yeah, the mothers might not have been so
They wouldn't
thrilled, but the
no,
kids...
but the kids would always come up to the police car. And that would be one way of a positive interaction with
Yeah.
the children.
Sure.
And it's not about myself going to someone's house later in that evening.
Right.
And the kids will see me there and they'll go, oh, hi, Rob, not realizing what I'm there for.
Okay.
So it's...
Did you find it tough, though? Were you working in situations where you were encountering really difficult situations that you had to deal with? Because you were living in the community, too. Like, you're not just... I assume you were, at least.
I was living right in the First Nation communities.
Right.
Correct.
So you're dealing with the people who are, I guess you're calling them clients. Do you call them clients? Or like the people in the community that you're policing are also the people you're running into when you go get your groceries and when you...
It became sometimes awkward because you did form a friendship with an individual out there.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, something happens or circumstances happen where you have to now become the investigator on some type of criminal offense.
Yeah, that's got to be awkward for sure.
And that's where you have to start distancing. And that's why I use, and that's why you hear police officers use the word client, is to differentiate between the two.
Yeah. I hear you were called RoboCop.
Well, there's a lot of guys that were called RoboCop.
Really?
RoboCop. I just didn't want to
figured
quit
it was because
working.
of Rob.
Well, no.
And then it became...
It just depended where I went, and that's part of when I policed, I made sure I did my job.
Right.
I didn't play favorites. I went out there and I look up in Isle of Cross where that nickname again came up, RoboCop.
Yeah.
And you have to provide a service to the community. And one of the things I wanted my members to do when I was in charge of that detachment is to be visually known. For one, be known to the community, but also have a visual presence in the community by routine patrols. And I think with the first year there was a high alcohol rate up in the north and drug rate. And just being visual and making routine patrols, we were actively able to do a reduction of crime rate by almost 43%.
Wow.
Just by visually being
present
in the community. Instead of going and hiding in the office or just being in the office doing the paperwork, I just tried to make sure my detachment members were out on the street.
You obviously had a lot of positive experiences. Did you also have experiences where you feared for your life?
Yeah.
Just because that's part of being a cop?
Well, I have started really talking about this, an incident that occurred. I think I was in Spiritwood in 2006 on July 7th. And I think about at 9:26 p.m. you got a call. It's the worst call you could ever get. Shots fired. And at that time, there was a routine, no, I shouldn't say routine, it was a complaint of domestic violence, and 3 members were shot, and 2 subsequently passed away from their injuries in Saskatchewan a week later. So yeah, it is difficult, and you see it. And like, I'll probably be jumping back and forth. The one memory I have, I think about it every day. But the day that Rob and Cameron and Mark Burdage passed away, they had a 6-month-old son, Lucas. And that was the first day he walked, right in the hospital.
Wow, in the hospital.
So that's, just see that happening and see what individuals are capable of doing. When we join the RCMP, or anyone joins protective services, any law enforcement or firefighting, we all realized, one, we're going to get transferred. Didn't matter where I was going to go. I just wanted to go serve and protect the community. But you always realize too, one day you may get that call, and you're always aware of what can happen. And that was probably that's one thing you just never forget.
You had children by that point yourself,
right?
And your wife. It must have been a really difficult situation for your family as well.
Well, when the shooting happened, I got the family together and sent them off to Saskatoon because I didn't want them to be exposed to it. But the kids were affected. Mm. Like, my son's now 13, my daughter was 10, and they were worried about me going to work after the shooting. Worried, are the bad guys going to get you? And I go, no, everything's okay. Then they hear another police officer getting shot, or 2 other ones getting shot and killed. And you always see that on TV. And it's become so routine, I feel, in North America, that people don't really realize the lives that are turned around because of someone's bad decision. As police officers, we're there to serve and protect and make sure that nobody gets hurt. They're not out to get anyone, or they want to just make sure that public peace and safety is upheld, and to maintain that a community is safe as well. But when a peace officer makes his ultimate sacrifice in his duty, it makes me mourn.
Why did you decide to leave the RCMP?
Well, it was really about a year after the shooting. I remember going to a prayer breakfast in Saskatoon. I've always been active in politics, or in high school. I was being First Nations, I think, all the way from grade 8 up to grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. I was always on the student associations, the vice president, and the ironic part is, in a high school of over 1,000 kids, there's only maybe 6 First Nations background.
Wow.
And it's not about race, it's not about ethnic backgrounds, but if you're capable of doing the job and getting along with the individuals or with your schoolmates. And that just went into college as well. And when I attended college in New Caledonia in Prince George, being actively involved on the student association there as vice president, it's not about a popularity contest. It's about who can do the job. And when I got into the RCMP, well, my political aspirations just stopped because you weren't allowed to be active in politics.
Makes sense. But you actually had political aspirations as young as...
As a young child, yeah, or a young kid, teenager, adult. But when I joined the RCMP, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. But going back to the prayer breakfast, the RCMP had changed its policy, which I wasn't aware of. And I talked to an individual, and I says, after I retire, give me a call. I wouldn't mind hammering up election signs, or just helping out in the next general election one day when I do retire. Then I got a phone call. Are you interested in politics? I says, yeah, but I'm not too sure on the policies. So I had to do some research too, and as a result, I ran for the nomination, and there has to be a commitment there too. And I chose to take leave without pay for 3 months the first time.
Wow.
And
That's a dedicated wife you have.
And then there was the second time for a 3-month writ when the general election happened, or the by-election, I should say. I had to take another 3-month leave without pay. And being a cop, you're not getting paid the most exorbitant amount of money, and we had to make ends meet. And the reason why I joined politics is one, is the crime agenda. I just like the direction that the current government's taking on trying to protect victims and victims' rights, and trying to make streets safer, and making criminals accountable for their actions.
Is being in the House of Commons what you expected?
Oh, it's not what I expected. No one expects that.
Really? What's that?
Well, I think what I've seen is that when the cameras come on, people act their worst, or childish in ways, and I get caught up in that once in a while as well, and I admit that. But what I do like and what I do see is individuals and colleagues working together on common issues. Like for myself, you see private members' bills come and go. Some are fluffy, some actually have some content, and some go by the wayside. Like I chose a very hot topic before I even knew it was going to be a hot topic, and I wanted to make a difference. I did a private members bill, and it's right now going to the third reading. It's Bill C-428, and that's when I first started, was to repeal the whole Indian Act, because I see a paternalistic document that regulates the day-to-day lives of First Nations people, like, and myself. I didn't know it existed until I joined the RCMP. That's when I had to start to enforce that Indian Act. And if you haven't lived under it, or you haven't experienced it, I see, having worked on First Nations communities, I see an industry in itself called the Indian Act, where you get over 5,000 bureaucrats administering the day-to-day lives of individuals. I see that's a total waste of money, where that money could be utilized differently. I can talk about this for days.
You definitely did pick a hot topic.
I didn't realize it at the time. It was just when I first submitted my private members bill, that back in December of 2011, it was before the First Nations Summit. And when I introduced it or put it into the journals, no one heard about it. It was one of my colleagues who did a media interview. Brad Trost did a media interview, and he says, yeah, well, Rob's got a private members bill trying to get rid of the Indian Act. Go talk to him. And that was the first, and then my first glimpse at the media.
Are you glad that you made the decision to run?
I'm very glad I made the decision. It's always scary putting your name on the billboard. You're always, you made a comment, always looking over my shoulder. I look over my shoulder because, and then, but here you do create a lot of friendships, like Rick Dykstra. I was St. Catherine's. I look at him as one of my closest friends on the Hill. We try to be regimented, just try to keep some type of physical fitness regime around here, because there's the old saying as well, for every year on the Hill, you're going to gain an inch around your waist. Well, I've been quite fortunate where I've been able to almost shed 37 pounds.
Good for you.
So
you're turning the motto on its head.
But it's a 4.5-year process. I still eat everything I see. But
you know, I really appreciate that you took the time to be here today. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Okay, thank you very much.